Right, welcome to Brawl. Welcome to the Hell Queue. So we're going to be taking our traditional Niv list here into Brawl. So this deck is built very similar to the way we build the Commander decks. We are looking to spend our hand, cast Niv Mizzet, reload, and keep going from there. So with that in mind, you'll notice that our curve is very low to the ground. Ideally, we want to get to turn 5 and be casting our Niv Mizzet. For those who don't know, enters the battlefield, flip the top 10, for each 2 color card, choose exactly 1 card that's those colors, put it into your hand. So we have a split of insane cards here. So our ideal turn 1 is to ramp, so for that in mind we have Flower for fixing. We have a lot of ways to just get additional land drops into our hands, just to make sure that we always hit them on the early turns. Fixing is very important. We have Path of the World Tree, Rolling Regrowth, and Navigation Orb, Signet, and Cold Steel Heart. In addition to that, we have my Alchemy All-Star, the Back Alley Gardener. For those who don't know, this is has an alliance ability, so whenever a creature enters the battlefield once per turn, we get to seek any land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So we've built around this, so we want to play a creature, get a land, and go from there. The deck is built around heavily in interaction, so we have on our upper end, we have removal with Solar Blaze, Culling Ritual, and Clarion for our wipes. Everything else is spot or a threat. So for example, Edgar is a hard to resolve and remove threat. Uro over time. Soligarch is definitely going up in power because we have added the fetch lands to this deck, as you see here. So he can buy back fetch lands when he dies, if he dies at that point. But the rest of the deck, as I said, is built around this nice balance of little creatures or things that give us advantage, and ways to just then remove stuff, give us solid removal, advantage again, low to the ground threats. That's ultimately how the deck works. We are looking to answer everything they've got, reload our hand, and snowball the advantage from there. Full deck list will be below. We're running a few alchemy cards. I haven't upgraded with the Ixalan cabins yet. I'm going to do that after these set of games and see if there's anything I'd take out, and we'll look at that next time we come to Brawl. Alright, we're here at our first match. We've got Finn the Fangbearer. So this is a toxic / death touch infect deck. Our opening hand is pretty decent. Basically we want removal for Finn, because our opponent having a bunch of 1/1 death touches is not irrelevant if we can tax Finn out of the game. Khan's Bastion significantly changes the maths though. That gives them a good clock if they get a toxic token on us. But since they have no threat, we can deploy a Triome and keep going. Our opponent immediately goes to turn 2 Finn. So we'll answer this without question with our sorcery, kill it, slow them down a little bit. Mana's a bit awkward here because we've drawn most of our tap lands. They play a Dune Muster, so it's a toxic one that helps them find a land. And they play a Tajaru Nightblade. Right, so we are going to take poison here, and with a land we could take quite a bit. So this is going to be a clock on race here. So first let's get Uro down. Either way we're taking a poison here, and I'd rather just get some mana sorted so we can drop Niv and try to find answers. It might come down to a race where we have to resolve bigger creatures before they can proliferate us to death. Here comes the attackers. We take 3 damage, but more importantly 3 toxic. I'm going to play a land here. I'm going to assemble the team, see what I can find. I find either a Solar Blaze or Culling Ritual. Ultimately deciding the Culling Ritual here because if I cast this, if they deploy a few more little creatures, I could get some great value off it. I'm holding back here for the Colligan's command. Opponent tries to play a creature that will give protection, so in response I'm going to blow up an artifact and kill the blade. Fortunately we are going to take another 2 poison here, so we are half dead. Culling Ritual looks a bit bad now because we don't have a swath of little creatures. So in response we'll just use Obscura Storefront, get one of our basics out. Get a blue here. We're going to play Grim Flare because we have Delirium, so we're going to keep that going. And we can then use a Ring Sight to dig for a card. So we can add a black or green card in total. Looking at the field, I'm looking at that Vanishing Verse. There's a good slew of answers here, but I think something that could answer the slightly bigger creature or anything else. If they swing in here, we will trade. It depends on what they play though. But we are basically dead in 5 of their turns if they go for the Proliferate Khan's Bastion plan. They seem to be thinking about it. They play a Jewel-Dyed Cobra, which is another Death Touch, which has now Hexproof while untapped, I believe. Sarif can untap the land, so that's going to make it pretty awkward here. Deadly Brew could attack a creature, but I don't want to, honestly, so I'm going to throw down Reload. Score our reload here. I'm ultimately looking for a way to blow up that land if I can. There's some good answers here. I'm going to use the Vanishing Verse to take care of the Sarif, because I want our opponent's creatures not to have protection. I'm hoping they don't have a Heroic Intervention, but in response all they do is untap the Khan's Bastion, showing me how quickly we could have died if they didn't answer that creature. Opponent considers their options here, goes to combat with the Jewel-Dyed Cobra, we will trade. We cannot afford to take any more poison. They make a treasure. Our opponent passes. We'll shock in here because if we're going to die, we're going to die to life. We're going to die to toxic, not life. So let's flash the Uro here, get it back out. Basically it's a race here, so they can kill us in 5 turns, we've got to respond with something in kind. So I could play a Wandering Mind here and dig, but I do have an answer, so I'm going to use it now. I'm going to Tyrant Scorn Finn the Fangbearer. Our opponent does not do anything, so then we'll attack in for 6 here. Their Finn now costs 6 because we've killed it that many times. So 19, so we can win this race here if they don't have any additional proliferation. So we're on 6 poison. And we have a counter for anything they do with a veto. This deck runs primarily fight removal, like our Death Touchers fight your creatures and kill each other. Finn comes out. They go for a Haywire Might. We have Justice Strike here, so I'm going to Justice Strike the Finn. Funny interaction here is Death Touchers, if they stab themselves, kill themselves. I'm going to then play Karvu, because I intend to swing out of my board here. And I want to make sure they can't give Haywire Might Death Touch somehow. We go into combat. Draw, put a land into play. I am holding up here the veto. I'm not sure what mono green would have to get out of this. They could play the One Ring as well, since pretty much every Brawl deck should be running it, unless you're this deck. They replay Finn for their entire mana cost and take no action. So with a clear path here, we're just going to use Deadly Brew to clear the board. We lose our Karvu, but that's fine, so we'll just add some mana. And just for the sake of things, just to say we did it, because I'm trying to get better at remembering my companion, we're going to cast Gigantha. Because technically Gigantha was on the field when we run, so he contributed. Alright, there's Finn the Fangbearer down. Moving on, we have Kinnan the Bond of Prodigy. This hand is not that great. We have a bit of interaction. The key thing with Kinnan is it's similar to Finn. It's entirely built around Kinnan, so you have to answer him as much as you can. Looking at this hand, we really can't keep it. We go down again. This hand is perfect. So, between this, we have all our mana covered, and Lotho is great in this matchup. Kinnan is a big mana deck that wants to cast multiple things. Like, early turns, they'll cast multiple Mana Dorks and Mana Rocks. Late turns, they'll cast multiple big creatures. So, immediately, I look at our options here. I want to have Lotho down, so Xavier covers all of our lands, but ultimately I go with Zeotars. I can't remember how to say it. I should just call it the Jun Trio. And we'll see what our opponent does on turn 1. They just play a forest here. So in response, we're just going to ramp. So let's get the Signet down and play the Traveler's Amulet. And now it depends on what we draw, because obviously we'd like the back alley Gardener down if we could. So we draw a land, so that's perfect. So we're going to play Lotho and pop the land here. This could guarantee us a Niv, or we can go back alley Gardener into Grimflayer. Ultimately, I'm just trying to decide what land I want. I choose black because I've got enough green between the two lands, but I don't have double black without using the mana rock. They take a turn off to cast the Guardian Project, so we're going to go all out here. Guardian into Grimflayer, triggering Lotho, getting us the land, so we are ramping harder than the Kinnin deck right now, which is something I never thought I would say. So with that covered, we're swinging in here because there's open damage on the table, and you should always take your open damage when you're not worried about the crackback, of course. Llanowar Visionary comes down. They draw a card from Guardian Project and from Llanowar Visionary. They ultimately don't do anything here, so with mana open, we will go with Niv, see if we can find anything. We get a land off the Gardener.
Reload!
And we find Drown in the Loch here. I take Drown in the Loch, which I think might have been a mistake because there's nothing in their graveyard yet. As you can see here, I'm working out that I can't actually kill anything. So we'll swing in with the Gardener here. It's pretty obvious our opponent will probably go for Mana Dork for a ramp here. Ideally, I think they'd want to cast Kinnin and get something else down, but we have a pretty good hand to deal with that. They use a Casina's transformation and a Kenrith's transformation to take out our Niv and our back alley Gardener. They don't know we're holding a Soul Herder, so this is irrelevant to us. But we have now got free mana from their thing, so we'll burn our treasure here and we'll make them discard and blow up the Llanowar Visionary. Because even if they do have counterspell interaction here, they're probably not going to be able to use it. It basically means they can't use it on our next turn, and our next turn could be pretty big. Yes, they do have Quelch, so they Quelch us. But now we can just go Soul Herder. We can use Legion to Ashes, take out the Guardian Project so they don't have any interaction. We got a treasure off Lotho. And we now have Delirium, so we'll swing in here for a big chunk of damage. We get Surveil free here. We can then flicker Soul Herder, and the reason we do this as well to buy another Niv is that we get Casimas in the graveyard, so we now have a good Drown in the Loch. And our opponent, realizing this, concedes. So time for our third game here, which is a bonus game. I want to say this guy made me laugh my ass off. So this hand is terrible against Tergrid. This hand is okay, nothing too major. We have all our colors covered. We have a way to kill Tergrid if it comes out, because Virginia Welcome does 4 damage, destroys a creature with power 4 or greater, which Tergrid most certainly is. So, Tergrid decks, all sacrifice, all kill spells, all steal your stuff. One of the most horrible decks, like literally on everyone's like casual ban for Commander in general, not a card anyone likes. So why do you think a Tergrid player would rage quit? And I'll tell you why, it's the funniest thing, and it's something that a lot of goddamn players in Brawl need to get over. Me casting a back alley Gardener. Me casting a dumb alchemy card and getting a land draw, and you concede because I played an alchemy card. Congratulations, sir, you are an effing moron. Hope you enjoyed the games. We'll be back with them later.